أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولا نكلف نفسا إلا وسعها, and we charge no soul except with that within its capacity. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obligated certain things on us, if He has told us about what He likes, then we should never think it's too much for us to do. We should never think that praying salah with khushu is impossible. Doing good deeds continuously is impossible. Coming early is impossible. No, it's not impossible. Because وَلَا نُكَلِّفُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. It's within your ability. It's within your capacity. It's something that you can do. And this is why we see there's so much flexibility in the religion. That, for example, if a person cannot stand and pray, he can sit down and pray. He can lie down and pray. لَا نُكَلِّفُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. So when a person is fearful of Allah, when a person has love of Allah in his heart, then he will excel in doing good, even when things are not favorable. Even when everything is not the way he wants it to be. Because he knows that if he cannot pray while standing, he can definitely sit down and pray. He can definitely lie down and pray. He will not lose that opportunity. وَلَدَيْنَا كِتَابٌ, and with us is a book, a record. Which record? The record in which is recorded the deeds of every person. And this kitab, يَنطِقُ بِالْحَقِّ, it will speak out the truth. وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ, and they will not be wronged. So the book of deeds, we see, that is not just a written book in which is written the deeds of a person, but rather, what do we learn over here? يَنطِقُ بِالْحَقِّ, it will speak. Because nutq is talking, speaking. So يَنطِقُ, first of all, it has been said that it literally means that it will speak. Whatever deeds are recorded in it, it will speak. It will be played. Whatever words a person said, they will be played. Whatever actions a person did, they will be shown. يَنطِقُ بِالْحَقِّ. And others have said that يَنطِقُ, over here, it figuratively expresses the mubalagha in how clearly everything is recorded in that book. It's as though it is talking. يَنطِقُ بِالْحَقِّ. And بِالْحَقِّ, what does it emphasize? That nothing contrary to reality is in that book. Everything that a person has done, that a person has said, only that is in the book. Something that a person has not done, he will not be accused of it. وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ, they will not be wronged. So what do we see in this ayah? That every person is obligated to do what he is able to do. No person is expected to do what he cannot do. So we have to see, what is it that is within our ability? What is it that we can do, but still we neglect? Because if we're neglecting, we'll be held accountable. And whatever a person does is being recorded where? In a book of deeds. And that book of deeds, what's going to happen to it? It's going to speak out everything that is recorded in it. When? On the Day of Judgment. If you think about it, a voice recorder, if you ever record your voice, what happens? It doesn't just record what you're saying, but it also records the breathing. Isn't it? The exhaling, the inhaling, the slightest sounds are even recorded. Similarly, we see that this book doesn't just have the actions and the words recorded in it, but also the intentions, the thoughts, the hidden desires, the motives, all of them are also recorded. And if you've ever heard your own voice that has been recorded, if you ever hear it being played, how do you feel? Embarrassed. Turn it off. I don't want to listen to it. Isn't it so? If it's your own movie that has been made and it's shown to you, how do you feel? You can't watch it. Now just imagine, on the Day of Judgment, your entire life, every word you've said, every move you've made, that is going to be played. If you ever hear your recording, what do you generally think? I shouldn't have said it like that, I should have said it like that. You can pick out your mistakes. Isn't it so? You can pick them out so easily. If you ever see a photo of yourself, a picture of yourself, you're like, why am I standing like this? I should have been standing the other way. Why am I looking there? I should have been looking here. You can pick out your mistakes so quickly, so easily. And this is how it will be on the Day of Judgment as well. We learn in Surah Al-Jathiyah, ayah number 29, هَذَا كِتَابُنَا يَنْطِقُ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْحَقِّ إِنَّا كُنَّا نَسْتَنْسِخُ مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. This, our record, speaks about you in truth. Indeed, we were having transcribed whatever you used to do. Every action, every word, whether good or evil, was being written. Normally when there are people around us, what happens? We become very careful. Isn't it? We become very conscious in our words, in the way that we're carrying ourselves, in the way that we're behaving, in the way that we're talking. But when we're alone, what happens? We become careless. Because there aren't people who are watching us. But at that time, what should we remember? If people are not watching, still, my words and my actions are being recorded. Who will remember that? The one who has fear of Allah. The one who has love of Allah. In Surah Al-Isra, ayah 13 to 14, we learn, وَنُخْرِجُ لَهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ كِتَابًا يَلْقَاهُ مَنْشُورًا اقرأ كتابك, read your book. كَفَى بِنَفْسِكَ الْيَوْمَ عَلَيْكَ حَسِيبًا. You yourself are sufficient as an accountant over yourself. You are the best accountant over yourself. You know what you deserve. In Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 49, we have learned earlier that وَوُضِعَ الْكِتَابُ فَتَرَى الْمُجْرِمِينَ مُشْفِقِينَ مِمَّا فِيهِ وَيَقُولُونَ يَا وَيْلَتَنَا مَا لِهَذَا الْكِتَابِ لَا يُغَادِرُ صَغِيرَةً وَلَا كَبِيرَةً إِلَّا أَحْصَاهَا وَوَجَدُوا مَا عَمِلُوا حَاضِرًا وَلَا يَظْلِمُ رَبُّكَ أَحَدًا. If you think about it, if you've ever received a report of yours about, for example, the questions that you attempted, the questions that you left out, if you're made to see your exam paper again, what do you feel about the questions that you left out? That you should have done them. Why did you miss them? How could you miss that? How could you miss that one blank? Because sometimes it happens that when people are doing an exam, they just forget to see a portion of it. They forget to solve a portion of it. They forget to see an entire page. They don't realize that there was a back page as well. And later on, what do they think? But how foolish was I? How could I have left that? How could I not turn the page and see what was on the back? How could I ever do that? And this is our behavior in life as well. That opportunities come right before us. One opportunity after the other. But what do we think? I have done enough. I have done sufficient. I don't need to do more. But on the Day of Judgment, when the result is displayed, then we'll see so many blank spots. So many empty spots. So many gaps. So many places that we will wish that we had filled up with something productive, with something beneficial. So what does this ayah tell us? That in whatever way we live our life, whatever that we do today, we will see that tomorrow on the Day of Judgment. So we have to be careful. What are we striving towards? What are we aiming towards? What do we spend our time doing? And what is it that we miss and we neglect? بَلْ قُلُوبُهُمْ, rather their hearts, فِي غَمْرَةٍ مِّنْ هَذَا, they are in confusion over this. They are in confusion over this. Over what? Over the book of deeds. They don't even think about it. They're so immersed in the dunya that they cannot see the reality of the book of deeds. They don't realize that everything that they're doing is actually being recorded. And others have said that min hada refers to the Quran. That bal qulubuhum fi ghamratin min hada, that they are in confusion over this Quran. Walahum a'malun, and they have deeds. Meaning instead of doing good deeds, they are performing deeds min duni dhalika, besides that. Besides what? Dhalika refers to, first of all, heedlessness towards Quran. Ghamra, with regards to Quran. So instead of believing in the Quran, instead of acting upon the Quran, they have deeds that are other than that. Meaning more worse deeds. Like for example, shirk. And min duni dhalika, secondly, has also been understood as the deeds that are mentioned above of the believers. That instead of performing these deeds, they perform deeds that are completely contrary to that. هُمْ لَهَا عَامِلُونَ, and they are for it ones who do. So when a person forgets that everything is being recorded, then what happens? His actions, what do they become like? They are those deeds which are contrary to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. وَلَهُمْ أَعْمَالٌ مِّن دُونِ ذَلِكَ هُمْ لَهَا عَامِلُونَ. They're actually busy doing those deeds. And when does this happen? When a person is in heedlessness. Because if a person is mindful, then he would never do wrong. Because he would realize that everything that I'm doing is being recorded. So how can I enter something that is negative in my book deliberately? How could I do that? حَتَّى إِذَا أَخَذْنَا مُتْرَفِيهِمْ بِالْعَذَابِ إِذَا هُمْ يَجْأَرُونَ. Until when we seize their affluent ones with punishment, at once they are crying to Allah for help. Hatta. What does hatta indicate? That they continue in this state of ghamrah. Until أَخَذْنَا مُتْرَفِيهِمْ. Mutrafi is actually mutrafina. And it's the plural of mutraf. And who is mutraf? One who has been made to live in luxury. One who is affluent. So the elite, the wealthy, the rich, when they are seized with punishment, then what happens? إِذَا, then at once, هُمْ يَجْأَرُونَ, they cry out for help. The word يَجْأَرُونَ is from the root letters Jim, Hamza, Ra, from the word ju'ar. And ju'ar is to make a sound, it is to make a sound out of being startled and horrified. That when a person is startled, when a person is made to feel scared, when a person is horrified, then all of a sudden he will make a sound. And generally this word is used for the sounds that are made by animals when they're attacked. When a group of animals, when a herd is attacked, then what kind of sounds will they make? A mooing sound, depending on the kind of animal. Right? So from this, the word is used for screaming, for loud sighs, for shrieking. إِذَا هُمْ يَجْأَرُونَ. They begin to shriek, they begin to cry out, they begin to yell. And figuratively, the word ju'ar is also used for supplicating, for making dua, crying out for help. So إِذَا هُمْ يَجْأَرُونَ. Now it is that they turn to Allah, praying for relief, praying for help. Or they begin to scream and wail in dunya and in akhirah on receiving the punishment. So we see that heedlessness, ghamrah, generally, it is within who? Those people who are wealthy and affluent. Why? Because they have so much dunya and its pleasures available to them. They can afford them. And because of that, they're immersed in the dunya, enjoying one thing after the other. Ghamrah. Right? And I told you that ghamrah is a deep body of water. And water, what does that represent? The life of this world. The blessings of this world. The enjoyment of this world. So they are so deeply immersed in it that because of that, they cannot even care about the deeds that they're performing. What kind of deeds are being recorded in their book. And when they're struck with disaster, when they're struck with some punishment for the crimes that they do, they cry out for help at that moment. Before that, they never cry out. Now they cry out. In Surah Sad, Ayah 3, what do we learn? كَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ مِنْ قَرْنٍ فَنَادَوْا وَلَا تَحِينَ مَنَاصٍ. How many a generation have we destroyed before them? And they then called out, but it was not a time for escape. So إِذَا هُمْ يَجْأَرُونَ. When? In the dunya. At once when the punishment comes, immediately they begin to cry out for help. And this is not just in the dunya, but also in the akhirah. In Surah Fatir, ayah 36 to 37, we learn, وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَهُمْ نَارُ جَهَنَّمَ لَا يُقْضَى عَلَيْهِمْ فَيَمُوتُوا وَلَا يُخَفَّفُ عَنْهُمْ مِنْ عَذَابِهَا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي كُلَّ كَفُورٍ وَهُمْ يَصْطَرِخُونَ فِيهَا. And they will cry out therein, رَبَّنَا أَخْرِجْنَا. O our Lord, take us out. نَعْمَلْ صَالِحًا. We will do righteous deeds. But will they be taken out? No. This is why Allah says, لَا تَجْأَرُوا الْيَوْمَ. Do not cry out today. There is no use in crying out for help today. There is no use in crying and wailing. Why? Because إِنَّكُمْ مِنَّا لَا تُنصَرُونَ. Indeed, you from us will not be helped. You will not be prevented from the punishment. You will not be saved from the punishment. No one is going to save you today, whether you scream or you remain silent. قَدْ كَانَتْ آيَاتِي. Why? Because my verses used to be تُتْلَى عَلَيْكُمْ. They used to be recited upon you. But what was your reaction? فَكُنْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ تَنْكِصُونَ. But you were turning back on your heels. تَنْكِصُونَ is from the root letters Noon, Kaf, Sad. Nakasa. And nakasa is to withdraw. It is to move back, to move away from something, to shrink. So, فَكُنْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ تَنْكِصُونَ. Instead of coming forward, when the ayat were being recited, when you were being informed of what is in the book of Allah, instead of coming forward, instead of excelling in good, what did you do? Withdrew. You went backwards. You said, no, I've done enough, I don't need to do more. فَكُنْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ تَنْكِصُونَ. When you were called, you refused. مُسْتَكْبِرِينَ. And what was the reason behind that? One's being arrogant. Istikbar. You see, constantly this theme is being repeated. That when a person is humble, he increases in his goodness. When a person is arrogant, then he thinks that he has done enough, and he does not do more. Mustakbirina, ones who are arrogant, bihi with it. Meaning regarding the Qur'an. From listening to the Qur'an, believing in the Qur'an, following the Qur'an, you were too arrogant. Because you thought there were better things to study. There were better things to listen to. There were better things to do. So mustakbirina bihi, you were too arrogant to listen to the Qur'an. Too arrogant to observe the Qur'an. And mustakbirina bihi has also been understood as because of it. And because of it has been understood as the haram. Because the mushrikeen of Makkah, they were the caretakers of the Kaaba. They are the ones who looked after the Kaaba. And because of that, they were very proud. They felt that they did not need to do anything good. So mustakbirina bihi, being arrogant because of it. Samiran, conversing by night. Tahjurun, speaking evil. Samir is from the root letter Sin Mim Ra. And Samar is used for darkness of the night. Samar with the Sin, not Tha. With the Tha, what does it mean? Fruit. But with Sin, it means darkness of the night. Like a poet once said, La atika samara wala al-qamara. I will neither come to you in the darkness of the night nor in the moonlight. Meaning despair from me, I'm never going to come to you again. So samar is what? Darkness of the night. When it's pitch dark, no light at all. And samara, the verb samara, is to tell stories, to chat, to talk to one another, to have a night majlis before going to sleep. Usually you will see that when people are traveling, for example, what will they do at night before going to sleep? They will all sit together. They will tell stories to one another. People will share their experiences. They will entertain one another, and then eventually they'll go to sleep. So, Samir is one who tells stories at night time. In a night majlis. In a gathering that is at night generally. He entertains other people. He's a companion to others in nightly entertainment. So who is Samir? A storyteller. Someone who tells stories at what time? At night time. What does this remind you of? Okay, this was done back then. People used to sit together and they would talk at night. They would tell stories to one another to have some fun. Now what do people have? A movie night. And movies, essentially, what are they about? Stories. For what purpose? Entertainment. So the people of Makkah, what would they do? They would sit around the Kaaba at night time. And they would tell stories to one another. They would entertain one another. They would chat till very late at night, and then they would go back to sleep. Then they would go to sleep. And obviously when a person has stayed up so late, he's talking, he's telling stories, or he's watching, or he's listening to stories, then what is he going to dream about? What is he going to do the next day? Anything productive? No way. So mustakbirina bihi, too arrogant to listen to the Qur'an, but at the same time you have so much time and so much interest when it comes to other types of stories. And tahjurun, you speak evil. Tahjurun is from the root letters hajim ra. And hajr is to leave something. From the same root is the word hijrah. So tahjurun first of all means that you leave. You leave what? The Qur'an. Because you're too arrogant, but at the same time you have so much time for love stories. But when it comes to the Qur'an, tahjurun, you leave it. And secondly, tahjurun is also derived from the word hujr. And hujr is to speak ill about someone or something. Inappropriate speech. And it's also used for sleep talking. So tahjurun, meaning if you do speak about the Qur'an, how do you speak? Evil. And when you do talk at night, when you do entertain one another with stories at night time, what kind of language are you talking in? Evil. Fuhsh. Indecent. Mustakbirina bihi samiran tahjurun. So we see that when a person, he takes interest in false stories, when a person takes interest in pure entertainment, love stories, romantic stories, especially listening to them or watching to them at night, then it takes his concern away from more important things. Isn't it? It takes his mind away from more serious matters. It does not let him develop interest in the Qur'an. It does not let him retain the Qur'an in his mind and heart. And as a result, it does not let him act upon the Qur'an either. Because as we learned earlier, your heart cannot multitask. Either you have love for one thing, or you have love for something else. Either you're busy doing one thing, or you're busy doing something else in your heart. With your body you can multitask, but in your heart you cannot. Either the heart is filled with love of Allah, with love of the Qur'an, or it is filled with love of other things. So when a person is a samir, then can he have love for the Qur'an? No. The mushrikeen of Makkah, they were very, very proud of being the custodians of the Kaaba, as we have learned in Surah At-Tawbah. Isn't it? We have learned in great detail that how they were so proud about it, and because of that they thought that they were very righteous. And instead of growing spiritually, they spent their time at night entertaining themselves and leaving the Qur'an. There used to be the Prophet ﷺ or other believers who would try to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at night in the haram or recite the Qur'an, but were they allowed? They were prevented. They were harassed. And these people, they would be talking, telling stories, and at the same time, tahjurun, they would talk negatively about the Qur'an. Today also, if you see, there are many Muslims, when they're invited to learn about the Qur'an, when they're invited to study the Qur'an, what is their reaction? Of arrogance. We know enough. We don't need to know more. Yes, I've read the Qur'an. I've studied the Qur'an. I listen to lectures. I don't need to learn more. But at the same time, if the same people are invited to watch a movie, if the same people learn about a new movie that has been released, and they have so much time for it. Isn't it so? They have time to watch one movie after the other. Perhaps watch the same movie again and again, which I cannot understand why people do. Something that you watched before, how can you watch it again? You spent 2-3 hours of your life on something that was hardly of any benefit, and you're watching it again and again. But the same surah, if a person is told, come let's read it again, come let's study it again, come let's look into the tafseer, what's the reaction? I've taken a course before. Yes, I heard the recitation of the surah before. I've done it before, I don't need to do it again. So if we have so much time to spend on nightly entertainment, how can we not have time to spend with the Qur'an? If you think about it, recently when there were matches, people were staying up at night. People were waking up so early to watch those matches. But when it comes to Qur'an, is it really ever that we wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, at 3 o'clock in the morning, to perhaps recite some Qur'an? To pray? No, we don't have time for it. Now this is being condemned over here. Mustakbirina bihi. Samiran. Tahjurun. You leave the Qur'an. You don't come close to the Qur'an. You think you know already, but you don't know. You think you don't need to do more, to read more, but you do need to read more. And when people are watching movies, one after the other, what is the explanation that they give? You can learn so many lessons from this. Isn't it? You can learn so many lessons from this. I've learned so many good things. But the fact is that the Qur'an is also full of lessons. Full of lessons. Have we studied the Qur'an enough that we can move on to other things now? Have we really extracted lessons from the surahs of the Qur'an that we think that we don't need to study them anymore? And we have so much time to watch one movie after the other? No. So if our focus is the lessons, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the Qur'an as well. وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Yes. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. Because lagh, it prevents a person from having khushu'. Khushu' and lagh, they cannot coexist. Remember that. It's either khushu' or it's lagh. Because lagh, it occupies your heart. And khushu' also, it occupies your heart. Either one of them will occupy at a time. Both cannot. So if a person is busy watching, listening to love stories, to entertainment, to stories one after the other, he will not be able to concentrate on the Qur'an. Many people complain. I read, but I cannot retain. Isn't it? I read the lesson, I do it 7 times, I do it 10 times, but I cannot retain it in my heart. I forget, I blank out. It goes away. It's because we don't listen to the Qur'an enough. We don't read the Qur'an enough. And the time that we do have, we spend it on such things. You see, learning the Qur'an is not just about doing your lessons. Because it's a different language, right? It's a different language. You can learn a language when you're totally immersed into it. You need a total immersion. You need to be listening to it. You need to be hearing it. You need to be talking. You need to be reading. You need to be speaking. When you practice a language in this way, only then you're able to learn. Remember that. So if our focus in this course only becomes doing the lessons and not reciting the Qur'an enough, not listening to the Qur'an enough, remember we cannot benefit as much. All 3 components are necessary. Reading, listening, and reciting. And when we focus on all these 3, then you will not have time for love. You will not have time for samiran, to be a samir, to be engaged in nightly entertainment. You will not have time for that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَفَلَمْ يَدَّبَّرُوا الْقَوْلَ. Then have they not reflected over the Qur'an? يَدَّبَّرُوا from the root letters, dalbara, from the word tadabbur. Have they not reflected on the Qur'an to come out of this ghafla, to come out of this ghamra? And we learn in Surah Muhammad, ayah 24, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ أَمْ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Do they not reflect upon the Qur'an, or are there locks upon their hearts? أَفَلَمْ يَدَّبَّرُوا الْقَوْلَ. They don't know the Qur'an. A person can only speak ill of the Qur'an when he does not know the Qur'an. A person can only leave the Qur'an when he does not know the Qur'an. أَفَلَمْ يَدَّبَّرُوا الْقَوْلَ أَمْ جَاءَهُمْ. Or has it come to them? What? مَا لَمْ يَأْتِ آبَاءَهُمُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. Which did not come to their former forefathers. Meaning, has something come to them which did not come to their forefathers, because of which... And others have said that مَا لَمْ يَأْتِ آبَاءَهُمُ الْأَوَّلِينَ, it refers to Rasul and Kitab. That this concept is so new, of a messenger, of a book, that because it's so strange, as a result, they don't believe. But what is the reality? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been sending messengers from the very beginning.